Wow, there's as much caffeine in this as there is in a cup of coffee. It's 4 a.m., so perfect. So today on Twitter, I set up a Q&A. I wanted to know what all of you wanted to know, either about myself or the channel or the tech industry in general, and a few of you asked the exact same question that I thought was very intriguing. It's a subjective question. I get asked this a lot, but I've never actually thought about the perfect combo, the perfect graphics card CPU combo you could possibly conjure up in this current market. Now, I'll admit, the CPU part for me wasn't all that complicated. When it comes to bang for the buck, how much you get, how much performance you can squeeze out of any given CPU for the price, I think that Ryzen in this current state is the way to go. I think that Intel's i5 lineup is pretty much dead at this point. I think the i7s still have a competitive advantage in some cases. The 7700K is still the best gaming CPU on the market, but it does cost around $300. So it's difficult to justify that CPU for a marginal FPS increase in most games over a CPU that on AMD's side has more cores, more threads, not the highest frequency, which is its Achilles heel at this point, but is much cheaper as well, which is what most people consider when they're buying a CPU. How much money do I have to spend to get the performance that I'm looking for? So let's do that. Let's talk about the CPU choice first, the one that I think is the best bang for the buck, and then we'll throw in the graphics card. I'll talk about why I chose that one. It's kind of an all-around contender just in terms of resolution and refresh rate. It'll do okay 4K gaming, light 4K gaming, 1080p, no problem. Again, refresh rate's up to 144 Hz in most of those resolutions as well. But for the CPU, I think that the best value chip you can currently buy is the AMD R5 1600. Now, I say that for a variety of reasons. Not only is it a decent gaming chip, obviously it's got 6 cores, 12 threads, an okay overclock. It's not gonna get anywhere near Kaby Lake, but Intel's been refreshing the exact same crap for the past 3 generations, so yeah, they should be at 5 GHz by now. But the 1600 6 cores and 12 threads will do it justice. You won't find a thread bottleneck for the most part. I think Battlefield 1, off the top of my head, is one of the only games that'll probably get somewhere close to max CPU utilization on a 6-core CPU. That's an exception. I don't expect that to become the norm anytime soon, so yeah, don't worry about that. Not only that though, the Ryzen 5 1600 has proven to be an excellent content creation CPU as well, which is pleasantly surprising. My daily driver, the i7 6700K, which is a $300 CPU mind you, renders a 5-minute 1080p 60fps file in around 4 minutes. It's usually around a minute per minute of footage to render in that resolution and frame rate. Now the R5 1600 did a really good job keeping up here. I was very impressed with the $200 CPU almost outperforming a $300 CPU in a task that is pretty intensive for all CPUs in general. I expect that the R5's render time was more dependent on the CPU's frequency than it was the core count. Nonetheless, I can say with 100% confidence that if I had $300 right now on the table and I had to choose between an i7 6700K and an R5 1600, I would choose the R5 1600 any day of the week. I'd pocket that extra $100 or spend it elsewhere, maybe like a better graphics card. And that leads us very smoothly into graphics card choice. Now please, it's a pet peeve of mine, if you're going to say which GPU should I buy, that's incorrect. You don't say which GPU should you buy, because that implies that you're only going to buy the graphics processor itself and not the whole PCB, like the whole card with the cooler on it too. That's called a graphics card, folks. That's not a GPU. But I think the best bang for the buck graphics card right now is actually from the green team. It is a GTX 1070. Now, I know that graphics cards in general right now are extremely hard to find, especially at semi-decent prices because of miners everywhere. Thank you. But if you can get your hands even on a used GTX 1070 for around $300, that is gold, my friend. That is an excellent graphics card. Let me tell you, I used a 1070 for like 6 months straight because that was all I could afford. And that card was a workhorse. It did so much for me. Granted, I paid $400 for it back then, but it was still worth it at $400. Keep in mind, I'm stating this without taking into consideration resolution and refresh rate. Those are the two things I think you should look at always, first and foremost, before deciding on a graphics card to buy. But in a general sense, I think that the best bang for the buck card right now, if you can find one, is a GTX 1070. NVIDIA really did us a solid here. Even upon initial release, they gave us a $400 card that was on par with a 980 Ti, which, mind you months earlier was a $600 card. The Pascal architecture gave us an excellent performance per dollar ratio. We weren't paying as much money to get the same performance as we were out of Maxwell. And on top of that, we weren't putting as much power into our cards to get the frame rate that we wanted. So efficiency went up. That's always a good thing. Again, this is entirely circumstantial. This assumes that you don't have a fixed budget, that you're just looking for the best bang for the buck out there. That's what a lot of people ask me about. They don't assume that they only have $400 to spend. They just say, well, how much do I need to save up to get the most for my money? That's a very powerful question, and I hope at least, that this video kind of answers that for you. I think that an R5 1600 is a solid middle ground CPU. It's actually above average, I would say, in the current market, and a GTX 1070 is also an excellent graphics card that you could probably find used for around $300. Even if you can't find it used, buy one for $350 new. You know, it's still an excellent graphics card. I would do it all over again that way. I would buy the R5 1600 and a GTX 1070 and be completely fine with almost any resolution in gaming, solid refresh rates up to 144 Hz, and most importantly, I won't feel the buyer's remorse, like I didn't get what I expected for the money that I spent. So if you've got, let's say, a $400 fixed budget, you can't go over that, you've been saving it for 2 or 3 months, and this is what you have to spend. You obviously can't go with this combo here. These 2 units alone would send you over that budget, but I do think you should consider the R5 1600 kind of like a goal for a CPU choice. Like this is, I hate using the term future-proof, but it is. It's a future-proof CPU for $200, and that's insane. Like 5 years ago, that didn't exist. AMD's giving us what Intel's been giving us at a significantly higher price, and that is powerful. Intel can do one of 2 things at this point: ignore everything happening on the red team, which I think would be unwise, or they can lower the price of their 6-core CPUs, in which case competition and, capitalism at work. So that's it. That's where I stand on this issue. I think people are still going to probably say, oh, he was paid off by AMD, or, well, he has no choice now because everyone's pretty much ditching Intel by this point. X299. What the heck was going on there? I just point to value where I see value, and I recognize that a lot of you originally subscribed to the channel for that budget-oriented process, right? You want to know what the best bang for the buck configuration is. Look, money is just as important as the products on which you spend the money. With that, if you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, thumbs down for the opposite. Click the subscribe button if you haven't already, and I will catch you in the next video. This is Science Studio. Thanks for budgeting with us.